who has had a better career up to this point, Luka or Trae?
It's Luka.
Salute the panel. 29-9, multiple seasons.
20 years old.
29-9, multiple seasons.
That's
Luka hasn't done that, and he went to the Eastern Conference Finals before him. 29-9. It's only been done, and I'm gonna give you. And he did it twice. Both Jameses, LeBron James and James Harden,
correct,
and Russell Westbrook. Trae got him. Is when it comes to playmaking and running the offense, I think Trae got Luka.
Who you taking, Ron? First pick in the draft, Luka or Trae?
I'm taking Trae over Luka.
Ever since the 2018 draft, Trae Young and Luka Doncic, they've been linked and compared numerous times. And after the 2022 season, for the most part, I thought these comparisons had finally ended, as Luka Doncic pretty clearly is the better overall player with more potential. That was until I saw this podcast clip from Player's Choice, where one of the hosts is arguing Trae Young not only was the better player, but he's had the better career so far, and this year will be more successful. That is 3 pretty bold claims for a player in Trae Young, who's only 6'1" and a very ball-dominant player. And while I do think Trae is a borderline top 15 player, comparing to Luka, who I think is top 5, it's a bit of a stretch. And looking at his first claim, comparing both Luka and Trae's careers, who do you guys think has had the better career? Trae Young at only age 24, admittedly, has been very impressive. Being a 2-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA member, he's made 2 playoff appearances, and back in 2021, his team won 41 games, which in that shortened season was on pace for 47 wins. And stats-wise for Trae during this time period, there's very few if any point guards who rival him, as he averages 25 points, 9 assists, 4 boards, on 44, 35, and 87 splits. And twice so far in his career, he's been top 5 in points, as well as assists in a single season. And by far Trae's biggest accomplishment, back in 2021, his Hawks team made the Eastern Conference Finals and got 2 wins off Milwaukee. That was the best playoff run in Hawks history, and by far Trae's best run in his career so far. Now, looking at Luka Doncic in his career, it's been equally as impressive, if not more. Making 3 All-Star games, making the playoffs 3 times, and being a 3-time first-team All-NBA member, all consecutively. And last year for Dallas in an 82-game season, he led his Mavs team to 52 wins and their first playoff series victory since 2011. Also, one thing I do want to highlight, when it comes to the MVP race, twice he's been top 5 and 3 times top 6. And looking at his overall stats so far in his career, he averaged 26 points, 9 boards, 8 assists, on 46, 34, and 74 splits. And when it comes to the NBA playoffs, twice he led in scoring, and last year made the conference finals. If you're comparing both Trae and Luka, looking at accolades, team success, even stats, it's all very similar. But if you dive in, really nitpick, I think it's pretty obvious at this point Luka is more successful than Trae Young. And looking back at the host for that podcast, one of the points he did make, which is fair, is that Trae Young made the conference finals before Luka Doncic. That's 100% true and a solid point. Now, with that being said, it ignores a lot of context, as was Luka and his playoff success. As in the Western Conference, undoubtedly, it's been tougher, and in his career, he's missed the playoffs only once, compared to Trae, who's done it twice. And I want to be very clear, I'm not downplaying Trae's competition, but if you look at Luka, he's played the Clippers twice, Golden State, as well as Phoenix. Compared to Trae's East, where he played the Randall Knicks, the Simmons 76ers, and the Bucks without Giannis for 30% of the series. Now, even if you wanted to argue Trae Young in his conference finals run was more impressive, even that is not true, as Luka averaged more points, rebounds, steals, blocks, on higher shooting from the field, as well as 3. And looking at his overall scoring, for the second time in his career, was a leader in points per game when it came to the playoffs. And I don't want to bore you guys with advanced stats, but just take my word for it, Luka in this run beats Trae in everything, from plus minus to win shares to VORP and everything in between. And the nail in this coffin for this argument, looking at Luka's competition once again, that Suns team he beat that won 64 games is more impressive than anything Trae has done in his career so far. And one thing I do when comparing players, I look at their highs as well as their lows. And when it comes to playoff basketball, Luka's highs are definitively higher, and Trae's lows are much, much lower. As looking at last year versus the Heat, Trae in that series was locked down, only averaging 15 points, having terrible shooting splits, and averaging more turnovers than made shots per game. And looking at a game-by-game basis, he had 8 points in Game 1, in Game 3 had 9 points, and the final game only had 11. Compare that to Luka Doncic, whose worst ever playoff series was averaging 29 versus the Jazz and winning in 6 games. Also in Luka's career, only twice has he been under 20 points, and not once has hit single digits. So comparing both Trae and Luka as playoff performers at their peak and at their worst, Luka definitively is better, more consistent, and definitively has a big edge. And saying Trae this year will have a better season, while it is a prediction, he technically isn't wrong, but looking at the landscape, I think Dallas and Luka individually are set up for a monster season. As Luka this year is going to have the ball 24/7 in transition, the pick and roll, half court, full court, whatever it is Luka Doncic, the offense is running through him. And by default, with Jalen Brunson leaving, Luka's scoring and assist numbers are going to skyrocket in this Dallas offense. As Spencer Dinwiddie, for the most part, is their only other true ball handler and player outside of Luka who can create his own shot. And when it comes to the two-man game, with a real big man, for the first time in Luka's career, he has that in Christian Wood. And for Wood, he can pick and pop, he can roll, he can catch lobs, and he's a much more versatile threat than someone like Porzingis. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole right now, but the Dallas Mavericks are set up for one of the best offensive seasons in NBA history, as they have Luka, Christian Wood, and a boatload of shooters. That being Tim Hardaway, Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, as well as Reggie Bullock. And if I was a betting man, using just common sense, I think Dallas at this point is more stable and the roster is more locked in stone. As for Atlanta, yes, they had some big time pickups, a big blockbuster trade getting Murray, but besides that, having Capella, Okongwu, John Collins, I don't think that roster in particular maximizes Trae and what he brings to a basketball court. Yes, he'll still get his numbers, but compared to Luka, I do not think he'll have a better overall season in the win column or the stats. And if you want to look 10 years down the road, which guy will be more successful, Luka or Trae, I am still betting on Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. As very rarely in NBA history does a 6'1" point guard as the number one guy mean championship success. And I guess we could call it a hot take, but I think Trae's time in Atlanta, it peaked back in 2021. As for this team, their overall roster makeup, right now, they're a borderline playoff team that will not make it past the second round. To make it pretty simple, Luka at this point has had a better career, he's going to have a better season, and for the future, he's definitely a better option than Trae Young. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.